Hi everyone, I hope that you had a great week. Welcome back to the channel. One of the things that I want to share with you is some insights about parenting regarding or having to do with a conversation I had with a friend last week. We were talking about navigating some new parenting challenges with our preteen daughters. And something that I said to her was that parenting is really humbling. And that's because it seems like once we've figured this thing out, our kids enter a new stage, and all of a sudden we have to learn, we have to figure something else out. And so as our kids are learning and growing, we need to learn and grow right alongside of them. And I have learned a lot over the years as a parent, and I have made many mistakes. One of the things, one of the goals that I have for this channel is to pass along some of the things that I have learned over the years. And so today I want to share with you 6 common parenting mistakes that you should avoid. But before we get into that, go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the notifications bell to be notified anytime I make a new video or I upload a new video. So let's get into the 6 common parenting mistakes that you should avoid. Number 1 is protect your kids from consequences. I think this comes from a place of love initially. We want to spare our kids from hurt. We don't want to come across as mean. So we don't take the time to discipline them. And but sparing them the temporary pain of discipline actually doesn't do them any favors, and it doesn't do us any favors either. We need to think long term. So the sass coming from your 4-year-old right now may seem kind of cute, but it won't seem that way when your daughter is 14. And trust me when I say that you will be glad you taught your son how to respect you when he is at the age when he is towering over you. We don't want our kids to have an undisciplined life. Doling out consequences to your kids teaches them responsibility, and it also gives them the boundaries and the security that they need. When we don't discipline them, our kids learn that we are not in authority, and they actually become insecure, and they end up resenting us because we were not the grown-up that they needed us to be. Our kids need to be kids. We need to be the parent. So we need to embrace our roles as being the person that sometimes has to discipline them, even when it's not fun, and even when it may make them unhappy temporarily. Number 2 is inconsistent discipline. For the sake of convenience, we sometimes tend to let little things slide, and eventually these little things that were truly little at the time begin to snowball, and they begin to get bigger, and they get out of control. And then we end up parenting out of frustration and anger because of that. Whereas if we had just disciplined them when the things were truly little, it would not have gotten out of control. Teaching children to become well-behaved is like any other habit in life. We have to be consistent. We have to do it over and over again. And this helps our children learn too that we are in charge and we are the authority in their life. If you want to see your child's behavior go from bad and disrespectful to loving and respectful, you absolutely have to be willing to parent at any given moment. If you only address your child's behavior. 80% of the time, you will have a child who acts out and disobeys and causes havoc more than 80% of the time. And that's because they are counting on you to be lazy that one time. So you need to be consistent. You need to discipline them 100% of the time and not just 80% of the time. It's really not good enough. And they end up not believing you when you say that you will issue a consequence. Your child is hoping that they will get away with their behavior that one time. So the tantrums and the disobedience will continue unless you decide to go against this parenting trend. Number 3 is focusing too much on outward behavior. Because their negative behavior is what's seen on the surface, we tend to address the things that we can see. We often resort to correcting their behavior with rewards or punishments. And this may modify their behavior, but ultimately it doesn't change their heart. It doesn't change what's on the inside. And when we don't address their heart, we never get to what's underneath. We don't get to the underlying issues. And when our kids misbehave, it's tempting to try to distract them with a series of ineffective options, to maybe even spank them, to take things away from them, send them to timeout. But the real issue isn't their whining or defiance, it's their heart. And so their behavior is the result of some underlying issue that we have not properly addressed, like laziness or selfishness or pride. Number 4 is making everything equal. And this can be tricky because we want to teach our kids how to share and how to be generous with what they have been given. But we breed a sense of entitlement, though, when we insist that our kids share a prize or something else that they have been given. We also do that when we try to make sure that siblings get exactly the same thing that someone else has gotten. And when we do this to try to make sure that nobody feels left out or nobody's feelings get hurt, we end up teaching our kids that they don't have to work hard for something, that they would get something even though they didn't put in the effort or the work. When we are insisting that our kids, split a prize that they received at school or from some other event that they were a part of or activity, or possibly money that they got or a toy. And so this can also be a missed opportunity. We are missing an opportunity, and we are missing the opportunity to teach the disappointed child how to be content and how to be glad for their sibling. Because in real life, you don't get a trophy just for showing up. Number 5 is talking negatively to or about them. It's innocent enough. When we have a friend who meets them for the first time and introduces themselves to our child, and our child doesn't respond, we tend to say something like, oh, she's just shy. Or if we have a relative that comes for a visit and hugs our child, to avoid embarrassment, maybe we say something like, Aunt Margaret, he's just not a hugger. And without meaning to, by explaining our children's behavior to outsiders, we have actually labeled them. And our kids, when our kids hear these labels often enough, they start to believe them, and they become self-fulfilling prophecies. And sometimes in moments of sheer frustration, we end up venting about them to our friends or our husbands when they are within earshot. And this is something that I have been guilty of, but it's something that we need to really pay attention to, because when our kids overhear things when they overhear things that we say about them, they can feel pretty negative about themselves. And so we want to make sure that we are speaking life over them, that we are speaking positively to and about them, so that they don't have feelings of low self-esteem. They don't feel negatively about themselves. And so we want to make sure that we are building them up. Your voice, positive or negative, will be internalized by your children for the rest of their lives. And finally, number 6 is not being intentional. Today we are so busy, we are distracted with all that we have going on, with our to-do list, with our schedules, with social media, and it can be difficult to really focus on our kids and put those things to the side and give them our undivided attention. It can be easy to just let those things dictate our lives and kind of just parent on autopilot. So we need to be intentional, and we need to carve out time for them where we are giving them the time and attention that they need. At no time in a child's life is their parents' positive influence more critical in their life than during their preteen and teenage years. But this is the time when we most often, lose our influence in their lives. This can be such a difficult time of transition for our kids, but unfortunately, this is most often where we tend to we start to lose our influence in their lives. So while your kids are still little, you want to ask yourself, do I truly have their hearts? Ask yourself, take a good hard look at your relationships with your kids, and ask, do I truly have the hearts of each of my children? Right now, it's easy for them to look at us and think that we hung the moon, to think that we can do no wrong. So we may not need to put in a lot of effort right now for them to feel close to us. But time plus affirmation over a long period equals influence, and that's what we want to buy for when our kids are older, when they're in the preteen and teenage stages. If we are not purposefully pursuing our kids in tangible ways, they will eventually gravitate towards people and things that do give them what they're longing for most. So yes, there will always be the pull of social media and peers and technology and possibly even unsafe behaviors. But if we have put in the time and we have invested in our relationships with our kids daily, those things won't have so much of a pull on them. Last week's video was actually all about the tools for building strong relationships with your kids. So I will link to that in the description below. Be sure to check that video out for more help in parenting and building those key relationships with your kids. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that it was helpful and encouraging to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.